Okay, everybody out there who's watching today, I'm so excited to talk to Sarah, who is known as Budget Girl all over the interwebs on her blog, on YouTube, on Instagram. Sarah, thank you so much for making the time to talk to me. The internet didn't want me to connect with you. It was like being so annoying, but I finally got you and finally got time. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, sure thing.
So, Sarah, I want to start with two fun questions about money, and then I want to jump into a little bit more of your backstory and your platform. So, the first question is going to be about spending, because I think a lot of people they see a platform like yours with Budget Girl, has so many followers, so many subscribers, and you're giving such great advice and showing your strategy for getting out of debt, and they think that you just have it all together, right? That like you must know money, and that must be a skill you have that they don't have. But the truth is, personal finance influencers make mistakes too, and we figure things out the hard way as well. So the question is, if you could think about a money mistake, a purchase that you made that you regret, or something that you bought that you really wish you could go back and change that decision, what would it be?
So my biggest money mistake was taking out student loans, but not for school. So I don't regret the student loans that
Mm.
I took out for my actual classes and dorm and books because those gave me an education that I was then able to parlay into a good paying job. Not at first, but eventually. The student loans that I regret are the ones that I took out to live off of because
Yeah, that
someone very helpful, and I wish I could remember who it was, told me in my freshman year that you should take out more student loans than you need for just your regular school expenses. So just in case you need some extra money during the semester, it's there. Now, I worked multiple jobs all through college, and I was making enough money to live off of outside of the dorm
that's
and the school and everything
awful.
like that. But I took a couple $1,000s each semester to just live on, and I cannot tell you where that money went. I can
Oh
tell
no.
you that it probably a good percentage of it went to Taco Bell. Um,
That is so
and
real.
yeah, and like sorority stuff, buying
Yeah,
presents for like your little
the
sister and
girl.
parties and buying like stuff on sale and just junk for the dorm room. But that was not worth having to pay it back about fourfold
Yep.
several years later. Not at
Yep.
all.
That is such a good answer, especially right now, because I think that student loans are so appealing to a lot of kids that think, oh, look, the student loan interest rate zero, or oh, look, the government is going to help to relieve student loans. It's not a big deal. And actually, student loans start accruing is if they're unsubsidized, then obviously you have to pay attention to them because they start accruing the day you get the loans. It's not like the interest starts accruing 6 months after graduation. No, the interest is immediate. Your payments aren't due for 6 months after you graduate, but your interest starts building up immediately. So you were paying interest on all that money that you were spending, and you could have just not gotten any extra than you needed and saved on all that interest.
Yeah, I only took out about $24,000 worth, but by the
Mhm.
time I graduated, it was 27, and by the time I started paying on it a couple of years later, it was 33.
Oh, I was about to
So
say it's
that
probably over
just
30.
like
Oof.
chunks up, and I started out making $24,000 a year out of college, so those numbers were not great.
That's almost, I mean, that's $10,000 more than what you thought you were gonna have to pay back. That's so
Mhm.
scary for somebody who's, in their early 20s thinking that they have a hold on their money, and then they see 10 grand extra that they didn't account for. Like, that's scary. That is just like,
Yeah. And when you
Yeah.
go through the inevitable, job changes and job losses that come with being in your early 20s just out of school,
Yeah.
it's not just having to make it on your own completely, it's having that giant payment on your back. And if you have credit card debt on top of that or any additional debt, it's a recipe for depression and angst and fear.
That's
And
right. That's right. There's right now there's a big conversation happening about financial anxiety, which is so real. Like I think people they don't realize how overwhelming these financial struggles can be for people that are young, trying to just figure it out. You're just trying to get a place to live. You're trying to get a job. You're trying to maintain your social relationships, and then this huge financial thing is also just like crashing down on you. And I mean, I'm very happy that I was able to like sit down and like teach myself personal finance and like read books and stuff, but it's hard, man. On the flip side of that, Is there something that you can remember buying that was maybe expensive, or maybe it was like a purchase that you made that you normally wouldn't make, and you actually don't regret it? You actually are happy that you made that. And if you had to do it again, you would, because it was a worthwhile purchase.
So every car I've ever bought in cash for that
Ooh.
big thing. So I've had some really fantastic. I'm not going to say luck, but I've made some really good car purchases, and I'll say I have never had a car note, which has been absolutely fantastic for
That's
me, having
amazing.
pretty much lived low income my
Mhm.
entire life until the job and point that I am now.
Yeah,
Having not having a car note is such a breath of
huge.
fresh air, because I know so many people that have that payment that they have to make every month, and it's just a huge strain. So
Yeah.
over the past several years, I have had several cars that were like beaters when I was getting out of debt. I drove a car I
Yeah.
bought for $1,500 off of Craigslist, and it lasted me like
Wow.
3.5 years. And then I drove a car I bought for $3,000 cash, and it lasted me 4 years. And I just
Wow.
bought a car for $6,000. It is a 2014 with only 50,000 miles on it. It's a salvage title, which can save you
Wow.
a ton of
So
money
much
if
money.
you are willing to put in the work and invest a little bit of money in a pre-purchase vehicle inspection and do some
Yeah.
research yourself.
Yeah.
And I have what anyone else on the road would think is a really, really nice car that I paid, you know, far less money for than it's actually worth. And it's a fantastic car that didn't break the bank and that I never have to pay on again. I can
That's
just let it drive me.
That is amazing. I think there's this, I mean, certain communities maybe, but also certain professions or certain jobs, there's this pressure to have the fanciest car or to have a new car. And when you think about the math of it, it really doesn't make sense to spend money on a new car. It immediately depreciates as soon as you get in the car and drive off the lot. And financial experts say this over and over and over again. And yet, my sister, for example, bought a brand new car a couple years ago, and my dad went with her, and he was trying to tell her, "Don't do this. Just get a used car with cash, certified pre-owned." And she refused. She wanted a new car. She wanted a new car. And she just finished paying it off almost a decade later and paid like
Not a new car
60.
anymore, is
Right. It's not a new car anymore.
it?
And it was like $60,000 at the end of the day, when she added up all her payments. Like, that's insane? And here you are saying you had a really good car for 6,000, a fraction of the
And
cost.
after I sold the previous one for $1,000, just once again on Facebook Marketplace, my total car cost for a 2014 Nissan Versa Note with Bluetooth, with backup camera, with all the bells and whistles, 5 grand.
Woo.
5 grand for a new car with 50,000 miles.
You guys out there listening, watching, get your notepad, get your pen, take notes, people. This is how you do it. Like, it just,
It's adorable. It's peacock blue.
yeah. Yeah, I'm honestly, this is I live for this stuff, because like I've implemented a lot of like frugality and like little practices in my own life to help me save money. But one of the things I haven't had to encounter is driving. I'm in New York City. I just take this train, the subway, and the bus everywhere. So when I do go to get a car, trust me, I will get that certified pre-owned.
Yeah, certified pre-owned, salvage title, like used
Yeah.
is like I can't tell you how much used saves you money, and I think it's pretty obvious how much buying in cash saves you money because then there's no interest.
Exactly. There's no loan. There's no loan. You don't need the loan. You
Mm-mm.
have the cash. You've been saving up the cash. I love that. That's great, great advice. Awesome. So, for those of you who don't know Sarah, who are not familiar with Budget Girl, I found out about Budget Girl first on YouTube, because I have a YouTube channel as well, and I was looking at other YouTubers, and I was like, oh my goodness, I love just how authentic you are, how honest you are, how transparent about everything that you're going through, and the dollars and this everything. I mean, it was just so honest, and I wanted to, like, do that on my channel as well, to just be myself, be honest, and share my story. But I want to kind of have you share with people, like, money is it's taboo. It's hard to talk about. It's uncomfortable and confusing for a lot of people to understand it and to be comfortable opening up about it. So, what gave you the idea, first of all, but also the bravery and the courage that it takes to go online and create a public platform, a brand around your money and what you're doing? When did that idea come to mind?
So the $33,000 worth of student loans that I was talking about, I hadn't been paying on them when I was working after college, and I found myself suddenly unemployed. No fault of my own, but my boss found someone who would do my job cheaper than me, which I can
Wow.
understand. No hate on that, but found myself suddenly unemployed, and it wasn't just the day-to-day living expenses that I had to account for, but this giant honking student loan that I had been ignoring. So I
Yeah.
told myself in the fear, in the midst of all of that, that I would do whatever it took to get out of debt. And when I got a new job, I would handle my money situation because I hadn't been doing it previous to that. So I found a job eventually in Hammond, Louisiana. So I picked up and I moved myself and my
That's
dog
right. I remember
to
that.
a place I had never been before, never even heard of. Took a job
Oh,
for $26,000 a year as a newspaper reporter, and I started budgeting. And I realized that that was all I really wanted to talk about. And so I was going to need some accountability. It wasn't, my friends were going to get sick of me talking about budgeting. I was in a new place where I didn't really know anyone. So it wasn't like I could confide in anyone there. So one day I
right.
picked up the camera and I just started talking to YouTube. And I figured if I started talking about the situation I had gotten myself into, that maybe it would provide some accountability. I could find some people out in the internet that would understand and maybe root me on, maybe give me some tips. Maybe I could help them if they're going through that same situation. And that
Right.
was 6 years ago.
Oh, that like you can see like my I don't know if you can see, but my hairs are standing on end. Like that is incredible because do you know how many people probably had that same experience and instead they stayed in the house, locked themselves up, locked the windows, locked the doors, negativity, let that fester, and instead you're like why would I do that? Why don't I find a solution? There are people in the world. There's so many people I could find online. And even if it's only, let's say, a community of 25 people, how beautiful
Yeah.
would that be, right? Like the fact that you took that action, that you went out and you went and sought a solution. Like I love that because I always tell people when you're struggling financially, it's not the time for inaction. It's not the time to just sit around and complain about the problems that you have. You have to figure out, is there one action you can take? What is one bite-sized thing you can do? I mean, you did a big bite-sized thing, but but still,
But I did it
you
one
took
bite at
that
a time. I mean, at the
that's right.
time I was bringing home $1,600 a month, and I was going
Wow.
through my budget and I was teaching myself how to cook and how to shop on the sales and how to do things cheaper. And I was sharing what I learned and what I did
Yeah.
wrong every single week. And at the time, there wasn't anyone else talking about personal finance on YouTube that was single or that was low income. There were a few
Yeah.
people that were couples, like Kids and Her Money,
Yes. Yes.
and Dead is Dumb used to be a channel that
Yeah.
was doing that, and Lydia Sin. They were on there talking about money, but they were in a different situation than me. So
That's right.
I
That's right.
I figured if I couldn't find the example, perhaps I could be the example.
Love that. I love that. If there's something that you need or you want and it doesn't exist, create it. You don't create it. I love that. That go-getter attitude, that doer attitude. Because I mean that's a similar reason why I started Miss Be Helpful too. I just felt like there wasn't really a lot of that happening, especially from women. And in March on my Instagram, I did a series for women in personal finance for Women's History Month. But then that led to this. I was just like, I have this list of women that are incredible that inspire me on Instagram and have all kinds of platforms elsewhere, blogs and YouTube channels. Why don't I just interview them? Because April is Financial Literacy Awareness Month. And what more awareness should people have than to look at women in personal finance, right? And like
And
just
hey,
take
we're
their
all
wisdom.
home right now.
Exactly, exactly. Oh, yeah. So it was the perfect time to do it. So, again, I can't thank you enough for taking the time and for sharing your story because this is so incredible for people to hear this inspiring story from somebody like you, young, single, who didn't know where to start, who just took that giant leap of faith, started anew, and like, look where, I mean, you're debt free today. So,
I am.
which is
I am. And it
incredible.
took me, what I like to tell people when I tell them how much debt I started with and how much income I
Yeah.
started with is that it took me so much less time than I thought. Like original projections stated that, if I kept the same income, it would take me like 5 or 6 years to get out of debt, which
Yeah.
sucks. And that's
Yeah.
a really long time to think about it. It ended up only taking a little over 3 years because along that time, I was able to increase my income. I was able to move for better jobs. I was able to essentially get better at managing my money and figuring out ways to be more frugal. So
I love that.
if you
I
stick
love
at it, you'll get better. Frugality is like a muscle. Money
Yep.
management, you get better at it.
That is so true. Because at first, when I first started, I had like $20,000 of credit card. I couldn't think about what I could cut. It felt like everything that I had, I needed. And then
It's
as I started to
overwhelming.
cut, yeah, but once you start doing it little by little, you start to get creative about other things you could do. I
Mhm.
started to sew. I started to like meal prep. Like I started like there's all these things that I didn't think that I would do that I did, and it ends up being a rewarding use of my time, and it saved me money. So Hey, you get a 2 for right there. So yeah, that was so great, so inspiring. And I think one of the things that I've been telling people is to remember that, financial influencers are not perfect. We've learned the hard way too. We've had our own experiences, our own troubles. So it's just nice to be able to hear that, like, you overcame a lot of that adversity, and here you are today. So you were even able to go on Dave Ramsey's show and like do the debt-free scream, which
Yeah.
I saw on your Instagram, on your YouTube channel when you actually did it and you posted it. I was like, oh my goodness, I
Mhm.
was like happening in real time when I was following your YouTube postings at the time. So that
And now I'm in the middle of escrow on a duplex,
I
which
saw
is my
that
next
on
big
your
step.
Instagram.
Mhm.
Congratulations! And it's a
Thank
duplex,
you.
right? You talked about it.
Yeah.
It's not just like a one house. Yeah, that's
No, it's a duplex. So I'll be living on one side and renting out the other, and the rental income will cover most of the mortgage,
that's
freeing up
amazing.
more of my income. And I'm purchasing the house by myself.
Oh my goodness. Hashtag goals. For real, you guys take notes. I mean, seriously, this is like I have not ventured into like purchasing a car, purchasing a house yet, but all my money that's stacked up to do it is like I'm just gonna follow Sarah. I'm just gonna follow Budget Girl. Like I'm gonna do it just like you because this is incredible. Like that is gonna be such an amazing investment for you. And obviously like long term, like you can continue to make money from it from as an investment property. You can live in it. That was just such an awesome story. I hope everybody out there listening is taking inspiration from Sarah. Two things that I want to say before we wrap up. One, I would love to have you share where people can find you, where they can follow you. We talked about your YouTube and talked about your blog a bit, but tell folks where they can find you if they want to reach out to you, if you inspired them today.
So I would love that, by the way. More Frugal Friends is always fun and we can all learn from each other. So you can
That's
find
right.
me on YouTube at Budget Girl, so youtube.com/Budget Girl. I am also all over the internet at budgetgirl.com. And then on all social media, I'm at Go Budget Girl. Like you're rooting for me.
Go Budget Girl. Love it. Love it. Awesome. And then the last thing before we wrap up is I've been asking everybody who came on the show so far, if you could put a message or a motto of some sort, a mantra on every dollar bill that is circulating around in the world so that everybody could see it, what would your dollar bill mantra or message be?
So I think I have a good one for you. I would put on the dollar bill, you can only spend me once.
Ah, I love that.
Because I think a lot of us, and I did this before I started budgeting, I would either think about the amount that I had in my bank account and use that to make spending decisions, or I would do this kind of mental gymnastics where, like, well, I have this coming in and I have this going out, and I have this coming in, and you end up spending the money twice, which is why
Mhm.
budgeting is so key. Actually inputting how much money you have in coming in and where you're spending that money, because otherwise it'll disappear, you'll spend it twice, you'll end up in all sorts of problems, and you don't need that kind of stress. You deserve better.
That's right. I 100% second that. There's something called mental accounting that a lot of behavioral economists talk about. Don't do it. Don't mental account. Physically account for it in your budget, either whether that's in a spreadsheet, an app, piece of paper, a cash envelopes, whatever system works for you, but you cannot
it
mentally account. You will lose track in your brain. You have to
we're
track.
bad at mental accounting, like
Yeah.
as humans.
Yeah, we're not computers. We're not computers. We're
Mhm.
not meant to do that. So I love that. That was awesome. And Sarah, thank you, thank you, thank you again. Everybody, go follow Budget Girl. Go find her and reach out. She's obviously just as sweet in person. I met her at FinCon, so I could tell you that she was so nice to me and still continues to be very
You
nice.
did such a great job in your session. I
Thank
watched it. You're a
you. Thank
fantastic
you.
presenter.
Thank you so much, Sarah. And yeah, have a great rest of your day. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
If you like this video, which I'm sure you did because the video was the bomb, then you're going to want to watch all the other episodes of the Mind Your Money with Miss Be Helpful podcast. And they're all right here in this playlist. So click the playlist to watch those episodes. And if you haven't subscribed to this YouTube channel yet, I don't know what you're waiting for. Click the subscribe button right now so you can get videos every single week and to join Team Be Helpful right here. That's all I have for you guys. Till next time, peace.